Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of American Horror Story Season 2, Episode 8, the finale. Let's all go to the lake, everyone. It seems all nice and relaxing there. Nobody's going to pull us into the water.
This episode was so wah-wah. It was so dry, which is interesting to say because it was about a lake, but it was really boring. I'm sorry to have to say it and start this review here, but this is where we're starting. This was slow, and I was really excited about this episode. Not only is it the finale, Alicia Silverstone was in this. And when I heard she was going to be in this, I was like, all in my nostalgia feelings. You know, I grew up around the same time and she was in every movie. She was in all the Aerosmith videos. She was like a really big deal. So when I, saw she was going to be in this, I was like, oh, it's going to be really cool to see her. And she was fine, but the story was so slow that I was like, oh, I feel bad that she kind of got stuck with this material.
It's funny, your feelings for Alicia Silverstone, that was like me. It's like, oh, it's Teddy Sears, big bad from season 2 of The Flash, when The Flash was still pretty good. And no, there's a lot of problems with this. To me, the biggest one is just that this is the finale. And I think with the finale, you expect something bigger, more dramatic. Well, we got a lot to get into here. But before we go further, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. We will be here talking all about American Horror Story Season 11 whenever that premieres. Hopefully, it will be more consistent than this season of Horror Stories was.
Also, follow us over on Instagram, Matt and Jess TV. We have some new pictures up there. For those of you who don't know, I own a bunny. She ate a hole in my bed. There's a whole thing going on over there with that.
That is your American Horror Story.
Yes, it is. Anybody out there that's a bunny owner understands my pain on that.
Yeah. The biggest thing that there was no evidence of any of this. I'm just going to point this out. There was a lot of things I created in my head entering this episode. And the biggest one was because we hadn't heard much about season 11 at the time that this came out, like a premiere date, a theme or anything else. Like, I had a part of me that was convinced that this was going to be like secretly like some sort of prologue to season 11 and they were going to tease something at the end, or that it was going to like tie in to a past season like Dollhouse. It's like, it's the finale. They're going to do something big and great. And no, we did not get any of that.
I think it's also tough because there's so many good, like, short stories or just stories out there that are about lakes. Like, if anybody remembers Creepshow, they had a short from Stephen King in there called The Raft, which is one of the scariest lake stories I've ever seen. It was really well done. They have The Mist, if you guys remember that. If you've ever read that. I didn't watch the show, movie, whatever, but I read the book Up at a Cottage by the Lake. It was pretty scary. I think the bar's been set pretty high for really good, creepy lake stories where I was kind of like, okay, we've got this son who gets pulled under at this lake. His sister watches. His sister then goes through mental health issues, obviously. They don't have a body to bury, so they are touching a little bit on sort of what we talked about last week in NECRO, this idea that TV showing, pretty accurate portrayal of people going through grief and losing a child, seeing the marriage fall apart, burying an empty casket with some mementos and not being actually able to bury your loved one, and how that affects people. I mean, that's all a real thing. But then we started to get into, I think where the biggest problem came in is that they had Alicia Silverstone as, the big name on here. And she's not the problem. But the problem is, if you're going to bring in somebody who's really big like that, you have to give them the meat of the material. And because this happened to the daughter, when the mother was starting to get these visions out of the blue, all of a sudden, 4 months later, it was just kind of like, she's having this thing with her son being like, Mom, help me, the bathtub, the pool. I was like, this should be happening to the daughter. And the daughter then needs to bring in the mother because the daughter is the one that's affected, but the daughter's not Alicia Silverstone.
Yeah, it was a lot of, okay, why why is this happening to her? Why is this happening at this point? Like, why did this just not happen almost right away? I think the thing with horror in general, or anytime you get into like some sort of creepy mythology, is that even if you're talking about things that are unrealistic or supernatural, I think there still needs to be rules that kind of ground it. There still need to be rules that make a certain degree of sense. And it's just like the more that I think about this, the more that I have all these sorts of questions where it's like, okay, so whatever is going on with these quote unquote ghosts / zombies underneath this lake, you know, they pull the sun in. All of a sudden, they're now capable of like grabbing and haunting at Alicia Silverstone's character, Erin, like far away. How are they able to like be at this particular location for this to happen? What's with the waiting period beyond it? Like, if they knew that, you know, the husband, Teddy Sears' character, was related to this family who did them all dirty, like, why didn't they do any of that beforehand if they could access them far away?
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing, right? Like, if he's part of the Prescotts, why is his last name not Prescott? Where he's like, it's my great-great-grandfather. Yeah. Okay, well, how did your name change? Like, I don't understand what's going on. Yeah. What they really needed to do was, for me, focus in a little more on that marriage falling apart. So that, because that is a real thing that happens, you know, parents lose children and lots of times the marriage falls apart. That if it was really breaking up, that the mother decides to go back to the cabin and is just like, you know what, I'm really being sort of haunted about what's going on with my, you know, what happened to my son, that, you know, his body wasn't found in the lake and, you know, things are so bad with my husband. I need to go back there for healing, answers, whatever it is. And she went back to the cabin, and that's where those things happened. It was really weird that it all of a sudden was happening at the house, and that his spirit has traveled all the way there to be like, help me.
All of it was just so weird. And I understand that, you know, we have to play pretend a certain amount when you're dealing with supernatural stuff. But, you know, I like to at least be able to sort of chart where some of the pieces come together and how it works. And like, to me, one of the biggest problems here, and, you know, Manny, Koto, if you were watching this video, no, I don't.
Stop watching, unsubscribe, just leave.
I don't want to ruin your day, but okay. No, Manny has written a lot of the episodes this season, and he's got some good ideas. Like Dollhouse, I think, was a really good episode, a really good way to start the season. But I'm gonna start coining the Manny Koto special, and what that is once you get about 85% of the way through the episode, it suddenly is like, all right, wrap it up. We got to find a way to tie everything together. And it's just like everything gets like totally rushed at the end. Nothing really makes sense anymore. And it's just like, why did this episode have to be 40 minutes long? Or is the budget like that tight where you can't just like add another 5 or 10 minutes to sort of make the ending, the build up to it, make more sense?
This ending was a joke. I'm sorry. It was so awful and weird. I'm just calling it out. Like, we have this situation where, you know, the husband all of a sudden is like, yeah, you know, I knew about this. I knew about the dam. I'm, you know, the lawyer for all of this. They're my family. There's no lead up to that anywhere that anyone in the audience could have been like, maybe there's a connection. Comes out of nowhere. All of a sudden, all these zombies are coming out of the lake and, you know, getting to him. Yeah. And then he's just like, he fights a little bit and he's like, all right, just take me to the lake. I was like, what is happening? And like the daughter's freaking out, but the wife is just like, it had to happen this way. I'm like, what? That's your husband. Like, I understand that there's some stuff that's going on and you're learning about stuff, but all of a sudden in the 5-minute conversation you had, now all of a sudden you're like, oh, it had to happen. They had to take him. Goodbye. Like, I was just like, whoa, that's your husband, the father of your children. Like, you're just completely fine with this. It felt very rushed. They didn't know how to end this. It didn't work.
It was just such a weird, bad writing choice to have it go in that direction.
Yeah, especially when she was like, oh, all of this must have happened so that we could bring my husband here so that they could just take him. I'm like, okay, well, why did they take your son then?
Yeah.
Why didn't they take your daughter? She's also part of this. She's also got the Prescott blood in her. I'm like, so what? Just the men, not the women? Like, what is going on? I left this episode with way more questions than I should have.
Here's the other thing I sort of wonder a lot about here. If this dude's the Prescott, air marries him and they go, I'm assuming you do all the pre-wedding stuff, the rehearsal dinner, you meet with all the if his family was like so prestigious, there's got to be at least like one toolbox in his family who is at one of those events being just sort of like, Aaron, you're marrying into the Prescott family. This is a very big deal. It's like, how does she not know if this family is that big, that full of themselves, that important?
Or that any of the three that weren't the husband have never, ever asked about their background of their dad.
Yeah.
Like, where do they come from? Didn't have to do those, family trees in grade school where it's like, this person.
Yeah.
Oh, my grandfather is a Prescott. Oh, my goodness. Like, where is any of that? It's just like the brother, the sister, the mother, they're all just completely in the dark about the family history of the father. It's so weird.
I think the biggest thing is just that I'm so let down by all of this, beyond it just being the finale and expecting something big with the finale. It's just that I really think this episode had a lot of potential. Like, I think this episode was poised to it could have been better than Facelift. It absolutely could have been better than, it was better than Drive, but just like the idea of it was so much better than Drive. And whether it's like creatures from the Black Lagoon or even the Loch Ness Monster, it's just like, I really, like you were even saying earlier with the Stephen King stuff, like, I really like the sort of motif of like something being underneath the surface. Like, there's so much cool stuff you can do there.
Yeah, and it doesn't always have to have like a really deep rooted reason to it, like the raft. It was, not to spoil everything, but like, it's a sort of this weird oil slick that's pulling people down. Nobody knows why.
Yeah.
There was never a reason. Sometimes it's okay to just be the Joker and you don't have a reason. You're just doing evil for evil. It's okay in this genre.
Yeah.
And it's okay to have a tie-in to this family as well, but you have to really you have to sell it. You can't have a whole family that don't know anything about their background and are finding out now, like all these years later.
Here's my solution to all of this. Give Alicia Silverstone, I don't know, a series regular role in season 11. Give her a better episode. You got to make it up to her. You cannot do this to the star of Clueless, because then you are the clueless ones, people.
No, she was the episode. It sort of is the same as Facelift. Judith Light, she's a treasure. I actually like that episode a lot more than other people did. It was just the ending just kind of came out of nowhere and got sort of stuck on the end where I was just like, what happened here? Like, this is kind of weird. But Judith Light was amazing and her story was amazing. And it was like, here, Alicia Silverstone, she was really great. And what she was given, was okay. But the ending was so like strange where her daughter's like freaking out. And she's like, yeah, just it had to happen this way. It's just the way that it is. I'm just like, whoa, okay. This writing just didn't work.
Manny special. Okay, all right. Well, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Like we said, we will be here talking about season 11 when that happens. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you here next time.